Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever the fuck you're tuning in. This is our Week 11 Roundup Blitz Edition, brought to you by Tailgate, Tailgate Trash Talk, brought to you by Backyard Sports.
Yep.
I'll get it out eventually. With me, I got the ever-standing for some mid-season firings in South Carolina. Bentley, how you doing, bud?
Carolina laid it on Vandy this week. So that was really fun for me because a lot of my week depends on how the Gamecocks fare. I fully admit it swings my mood much more than it should, and it matters a lot more than it should to me. But I am not $76 million richer this week. So I'm just doing okay.
Just doing okay. So let's jump right into that, man. It's not a bad day. It might be a disappointing day, but it's not a bad day when you get fired and get to cash a $76 million check that pays out over the next, I think it was 6 years, was the payout schedule for him. So Jimbo Fisher, and I'm just going to say it, 2 years too late. They should have never given him the additional money they gave him and all that fucking fun stuff. He has never finished a season in the top 25 in College Station.
Nope.
Yet, he's walking away with $76 million. And he doesn't even have a cooling off period, so he can go find another job if somebody's dumb enough to pay him.
Yep.
Talk to me, bud. Jimbo Fisher, too soon, too late. What's up, man?
Personally, I would have liked to see Jimbo Fisher get a lifetime contract from like Clemson or Georgia, specifically one of those two schools, mainly because I'm not a Jimbo fan. I don't think he's a very good coach, and those are the two schools that I root against the most. But for the sake of argument and for sanity in College Station, I do agree it was probably too late. Jimbo, it was kind of a one-hit wonder, right? Which is tough to say because he's objectively a good football coach, right? You don't make it this far, you don't get these jobs without being a good football coach.
He won a national title.
Yes, he won a national title. His contract that he signed and his buyout that he's receiving is larger than the sum of money that Jameis Winston has made in the NFL.
That's fair.
After that national title. So that is like kind of ironic to me. I thought that was hilarious. Yeah. But if I'm an A&M fan, I think it's too late. I think after beating Alabama and then losing to LSU like almost directly afterwards in 21, I guess it was, it's like that's kind of the hump, right? Like you to get over the hump to jump into the national title contention category, those are games you have to win consecutively. Like you going from a middling team, which is historically what A&M is. I know that they don't want to hear that, but they're not a historical powerhouse university. To jump from where they were to where they want to be is not something that Jimbo Fisher, I believe, was ever going to be able to do there, regardless of all of the money and all of the recruits that he's bringing in, because that's just not the coach that he is. So I think it was too late, but it's never too late to get $76 million.
Yeah, I agree. As I said, I think it's probably 2 years too late. I know last year there was some conversation that the boosters weren't happy, but nobody was willing yet to pony up the cash because I think last year the buyout was going to be close to a hunch.
Yeah.
Would have been fucking nuts. But it was also additionally doubly funny that prior to the game after which he got fired, the most prominent booster club that is associated with Texas A&M rolled into the stadium with one of those fucking lottery winning checks for 9 figures.
Yep.
And suddenly the old boy in the AD's office has the money to send Jimbo Fisher on his way out the door.
Yep. It's a weird situation in Aggie land there. And I listened to a guy who works for the university, or he's associated with them. I don't know his official capacity, but he's talking about it. All of their booster money runs through the 12th Man Foundation, which is what you're talking about, and they wrote that $160 million check right there before the game.
Yep.
And you just have to imagine that 76 of that is going to Jimbo. Like
about half of it was earmarked.
Yeah, they rolled in with the check and they said, "Hey, if we lose this game, like if we win, great, you get 160 mil. If we lose, 76 of it goes to old buddy." It also that game was crazy because it was the double coach firing.
Yeah,
because Mississippi State also fired their coach after the game.
Yep.
I've never seen a game where it was played and then both coaches got fired.
It was like one of those double knockout videos.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. Crazy.
It is wild. It is wild for sure. Yeah. I can only imagine like on the memo line of the check, it said like fire Jimbo Fisher.
Oh, it would have been beautiful. Oh, that would have been beautiful. Make the shout leader doing all this stuff stand out there. Oh. Midnight yell. Jimbo walks out and they're like, "Nah, bud, not today." Oh, man.
Oh, that would have been
Texas
great.
A&M is such a weird place, dude.
Yeah.
So strange.
Sure. All right. Let's shift gears to another coach. Prominent kind of back and forth with the Big Ten. I have a conspiracy that I'm going to float your way in just a moment here. I'm going to lay the background and then I'm going to float the conspiracy your way. So the Big Ten, after Ryan Day's brother uncovered this evidence and passed it to the Big Ten, Jim Harbaugh ends up getting suspended, right, for 3 games. Connor Stallions has walked away from the program. Oh, yeah. College coaches, holy cow. The money in college programs is just silly. But so Connor Stallions walks away. Jim Harbaugh ends up with a 3-game suspension. They appeal and try to get a restraining order, and they go to a judge that's a Michigan alum. They can't get the hearing heard in time, so he ends up having to sit out the game on Saturday against Penn State anyway. Well, we find out today that now Jim Harbaugh has dropped his appeal and is just going to serve the 3 games at the end of the season, which includes this weekend against Maryland, but most importantly, next weekend against Ohio State.
Yep.
So here's my conspiracy theory for you. Do you think it's possible that the Big Ten and the NCAA got together and said, Jim, serve this 3 games, let this go away quietly, and the NCAA won't follow up with any sort of infraction, any sort of scholarship hit, any sort of violation, right? Because, reminder, right, for anybody that hasn't necessarily been following along, this is a punishment imposed by the Big Ten.
Yeah.
It is not the NCAA. So I'm curious your thoughts. Do you think there's any possibility that behind closed doors, because we know that like the pro leagues do this, right? Yeah. They're like, just accept this. We'll sweep this under the rug, yada, yada. And I'm pretty sure we've seen this with the NCAA with other programs in the past. Do your own bidding in-house. We'll walk away. All things are copacetic. Do you think this is one of those situations?
I hadn't thought of that, honestly. I like that idea. I think that's probably fairly accurate. We've seen in the past, specifically like SMU,
yep,
where there's a big, a big to do about nothing really, because that was in the grand scheme, it doesn't really matter. Like everybody's kind of doing it right, but then the NCAA comes down and lays the hammer, and it's like, oh, death penalty for your squad. Now, does Jim Harbaugh care that much about the university? Who knows? But I do think that he is probably looking to avoid having his name besmirched. And this is certainly a way to do that. I tend to say, yeah, actually, I like that theory, and I hadn't thought of it, and I'm jealous.
I'll take the tinfoil hat off.
Yeah. I mean, anything to keep the NCAA from looking under your covers is a good thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I kind of want to get your final thoughts, though. Is this the end of it? Because we had heard Michigan had dirt on other teams too.
Right.
Is this going to open Pandora's box, or maybe as part of this whole thing, everybody's just going to drop it? Jim's going to eat 3 games and everybody's kumbaya, whatever. But Are we going to get fucking mics and helmets? When does that happen?
Probably not.
Into all of this.
I know it, but we might get it in like 10 years.
Yeah, the
NCAA
is a fucking dinosaur. Ugh.
Yeah, they move slower than molasses in January when trying to do anything.
The federal government.
Wow.
It's close. Close.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's money involved, right?
Yeah.
But is it the last of it? Probably from the Michigan side. Michigan, I don't expect to make any noise about this going forward. You know that we're going to hear all about it in 2 weeks when they play Ohio State.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously the game will be the focus, but everything else is going to be, well, Jim Harbaugh's not here. Jim Harbaugh's not here because of the cheating allegation or the side stealing allegations, right? So it's not going away from the headlines or anything, but I don't imagine that Michigan will be the one to bring it up at any family functions going forward.
Yeah. The most unsafe drinking game you can play this weekend is to drink whenever it gets brought up during the Michigan State, or not this weekend, next weekend.
Yeah, the Ohio State
game.
Yeah.
That'll be the most unsafe drinking game you could play.
Just take a shot anytime the words Jim Harbaugh are mentioned on the broadcast.
You'll be asleep by the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, like you're not making it to halftime, dog.
Right. All right. Well, let's shift gears. I want to kind of highlight a few games. I know we mentioned in the lead up, we this would be a bit of a quick hit episode, but I want to start with that Michigan Penn State game and just get some brief thoughts from you. We saw a lot of emotion from Shamar Moore after that game.
Mm-hmm.
We saw a lot of emotion from the Michigan players, and we saw them leverage the Blake Corum picture with his nose all busted up, and used it as a motivation poster that they've put in the locker room. What are your thoughts from this game? Is this just kind of ho-hum, what we thought we were going to get? Penn State showed their true colors against Ohio State, and they were never going to be able to keep up with Michigan. Did you learn a bit about Michigan from this, though? Or maybe
yes, it was more confirmation about Penn State, right? Like we knew who Penn State was. This is always who they were. James Franklin doesn't run a high-flying offense. It just doesn't happen in Happy Valley, right? Or on the road, whatever, in that program.
Yeah.
I was thoroughly unimpressed with Michigan. You got this quarterback who people want to vault into the Heisman candidacy, right?
Like, people calling him a first-round fucking pick.
Yeah, he threw the ball 8 times. I mean,
32 straight times. They called one pass play in there, but it got called pass interference. So
right.
Officially 32 straight run plays to end that game.
Yep. That will not work against other teams. We saw Georgia this weekend with their full staff healthy, backing on the field, their full cabinet full of toys for Carson Beck. You can't run the ball 32 times against that team because you're not – well, one, their defense is better than Penn State's, so you're not going to be able to run the ball 32 times in a row. And you're going to have to score points to keep up with a team like that.
Yep.
It may work against Ohio State. I don't know. Ohio State's defense maybe less stout up front than is Penn State's. Potentially they don't have Chop Robinson, a guy like that. But their secondary is a lot better. So, they're going to load the box and try to force you to throw the ball against a secondary that's more talented than is Penn State's. But again, Ohio State is a team you're going to have to score points against to beat. If Michigan can't get their passing game online, obviously we know they can run the hell out of the ball. They've done it all year long. They did it last year. Blake Corum is one of the best backs in the country. Got it. But if they're very serious about contending for a national title, which I think that they can be, they have to get their passing offense back online. And I don't know how much of that was let's just get this game over with and try to move on and get Jim Harbaugh back. I don't know how much of that played a factor. And I don't know how much of him not being there from a coaching standpoint played a factor either. But I was very unimpressed with the Michigan game. And I thought they would be more spirited and kind of try to come out and blow out Penn State. Maybe try to run it up, and the way that those guys were talking all week long was they made it seem like Jim Harbaugh died. And it's like, dog, he's 4 miles down the road at the Holiday Inn Express.
60-inch big screen.
Yeah, I just was not impressed with Michigan at all in that game. man, their defense played well, but we already talked about Penn State's offense not being what a lot of people thought it might be. I don't know. I wasn't impressed.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was curious, like why go into that much of a shell with your offense, knowing that you've got Ohio State coming up in a couple of weeks, and I know they've got what probably should be a tune-up game for them in Maryland this weekend. However, Ohio State's right around the corner. By the way, I just saw on the bottom line, fuck the NCAA. They officially have ruled that JMU is not eligible for the conference championship.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, miss me
So
with
dumb.
that shit, man. It is a fucking tragedy.
So dumb.
Stupid. The NCAA is such a fucking dinosaur.
Yep.
Anyway, I was curious about that approach in the second half because I don't think you want to go into a shell like that just from a rhythm standpoint, like you said, right? They're going to have to hope that this weekend they get the passing game back on track against Maryland. And we've seen Maryland be pretty plucky this year. They've lost a couple of games they shouldn't have lost, but they've been pretty plucky. And that offense can score.
Yeah.
And if you're not scoring, that Maryland team might surprise you. And they're on the road in Maryland, in College Park. I'm curious to see how that plays out this weekend. So it was an odd selection for me to just run the ball. It was almost like they were trying to just prove to Penn State that they were that much better than them. I guess I don't know. Anyway, let's switch gears, get off the maize and blue, and talk about some other games from this weekend. Big one you want to highlight from this past weekend?
I kind of mentioned it earlier, but Georgia, dude.
Oh my God.
That game was tied at 14 in I believe it was
you
the second quarter.
The final score.
No, you would not know. 52-17. Ooh. I mean, like they had everything working. You know, we were texting and I think we were both shocked to see Brock Bowers out there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that he wouldn't come back till the NFL. He's got the 2 rings. Like, what more do you need? A more realistic guess would have maybe been the playoff. Optimistic, in my opinion, would have been conference championship game. But to see him out there, with 3 weeks till the title game is like, wow, that's scary, right?
Boy loves Georgia, I guess.
I guess. But this was the first time. This was the first time all season that they had their entire offense.
Yes.
All of their starters, rather, out there healthy and functioning. And boy, did they function. I mean, now Jackson Dart did go out for Ole Miss, which really sucked. But he's projected to play this weekend, so I don't think it was like a really bad injury.
They were just by so much. I'm sure they weren't going to put him back.
Yeah, it was unsafe for him to be out there at that point, and the game was out of hand.
Yep.
But it just kind of solidified in my mind. It justified having them at the 1 seed where I've had them all year long. They're the best team. They may not be as talented as they were the last 2 years, but those 2 teams were also the best team in college football, right? So, like, there's no reason to bump them off the 1 line just because they lost guys when they're still winning all of these games. And I'm glad the committee did the right thing and put them back at 1 this week. I think right now they're the best team in college football, and it's going to be tough to beat them.
Yeah, the game I am the most excited about going forward that I know that I'm going to get is Bama Georgia in the SEC title game. The game I might be the most excited about is the conference or the playoff final, where I might get Alabama and Georgia rematch, which would be a fucking awesome show.
Oh yeah,
but I am excited about the SEC title game because, as we've been talking about for about a month and a half now, there's a noise, and it's really loud down here, boy. It's really
buddy.
I'm about 2 hours from T-Town right now, and it is loud. I got off the airplane, and it was just Roll Tide.
Yes, baby.
I can't tell you, this week I've had a bunch of meetings with folks. I can't tell you how many times Alabama, Crimson Tide, Nick Saban has come up, and the words Roll Tide have been said. It is literally how the commercial says.
Oh, yeah.
The jokes about they talk in Roll Tide. They talk in Roll Tide down here.
Yes, they do.
And that Crimson Tide is rolling, buddy. And I'm excited about the SEC championship game. And if we do get a Bama upset of Georgia, because I do believe Georgia will still be the favorite going into that game, but if we do get an upset of Bama over Georgia, we may see that again in the college football playoff final, and it'll be a dog fight if those two teams are playing for the national championship. So for sure, Georgia looks they hit on all cylinders. You don't score 50 by accident. Nope. You don't score 50 against the top 10 opponent.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
man.
We should shout out Jalen Milroe though.
Oh my God.
First Alabama quarterback ever to go for 6 touchdowns in a game. He was somebody that was getting dog-piled early in the season for not being great.
Got benched against USF. Well, sat out against USF. And he had, three passing, 3 rushing, first Alabama quarterback in history. That's a pretty big deal in that program for sure.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And I've been talking with a couple of the Roll Tide people down here, and just been kind of talking about things that you and I have been talking about with Jalen Milroe. It's like they figured him out. They figured out how to run that offense through him. It's the deep ball or run. You either hit the home run or you're going to use your feet because he's really good with the ball in his hands, as evidenced by this weekend.
Yep.
All right. I want to chat a little bit about a disappointment for me this weekend. And you and I talked about this game as it was going on, and we talked about how dismal the second half was for our Fighting Utes.
Oh, yeah.
They had a lead at half, man. They had a lead at half, and it looked like they were giving Washington's offense problems. Now, I don't think that Washington figured out the Utah defense because they scored 11 points in the second half. Utah went to sleep on offense.
Yeah.
0 points in the second half, and they still only lost by a touchdown. That's how well they had played in the first half. We talked about the defense, right? It can be suffocating. It can be – and to be honest, like against the Michael Penix offense and the way we've seen Washington this year, 35 points when your offense played as bad as it did for a long stretch of that game, that might be as good as suffocating most other teams.
Right.
And they gave you a chance to win, and you had the lead at the half, and it just seemed like whatever they were doing on offense in the first half, it just started to fail in the second half, and they couldn't adjust. Washington's defense, to their credit, played better in the second half. But, man, you had them. You had them where you wanted them. Put up 28 in the first half, and you just couldn't get it going in the second half. It was a very strange game, but Washington stays undefeated, stays in playoff contention, stays on a crash course with Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. What are your takeaways from this game?
Yeah, Utah feels like a team that is going to handle its business against bad teams. It can beat good teams, but to beat an elite team such as Washington or Oregon, they need a defensive score. Mm-hmm. And they didn't get that.
Yep.
And that, I think, was probably the difference of the game, right? There's almost a 10-minute time of possession difference as well, which when you're playing against Washington is not something you really think of, right? Like you kind of almost assume you're going to own time of possession against Washington because they have such a quick strike. Yeah, that quick strike offense. But you said it, man. Utah just couldn't get anything going in the second half at all. Like there was nothing they could do on the offensive side, which is very shocking because Southern Cal did anything they wanted to on the offensive side of the ball the week prior against Washington. It's like, they couldn't stop them, right? Obviously, and like Washington is a good defense. They're not great or whatever, and Utah's offense is like pretty good. So like you kind of assumed that they were going to figure anything out in the second half at all, and like you said, they just went to sleep and kind of rolled over. I thought.
Yep, for sure. And I think the difference is, right, we've talked a little bit about how they've gotten a little bit of good play at the quarterback position, but, man, they miss Cam Rising. Holy shit. And in all fairness, right, there's only a couple of programs in the country that wouldn't miss Cam Rising.
Oh, yeah.
The way that Utah misses Cam Rising, right? He's an unbelievable playmaker. He was 95% of that offense last year. Him and Dalton Kincaid were pretty unstoppable.
Yep.
But they really miss him and his ability to fix things for that offense. And Barnes just can't do that. He doesn't have it. They've tried a couple of different options at quarterback. the other one that probably his name eludes me, but he's a bit more athletic, bit more of a runner, and it still wasn't really making ends meet. Cam Rising is just the best of both worlds, right? He can throw the ball really well, but he's also a really, really good runner with the ball. It's become clear to me that when he said in week 4 that, like, we didn't disclose how bad the knee injury was, he wasn't exaggerating.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned it last week, I think we're on the brink of a med red shirt, and we're probably going to see Cam Rising next year playing, still there in Salt Lake. So, yeah.
I hope so, because, man,
he's fun.
He's such a great college quarterback, dude. He's everything that you just envisioned about a college quarterback.
Yep.
The long hair, the mustache. He runs it, like you said. He's incredibly athletic, and he fixes so many things to that offense. Like,
yep, absolutely.
They would have been a playoff contender, national title contender, had he played this year, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I agree with that defense, and they can run the ball. They just can't. They can't get teams out of 7 guys in the box, 8 guys in the box. They just can't get them out of it.
They put that linebacker down there at running back, and they just run the ball.
Yep.
He plays both ways. Everybody talks about Travis Hunter,
right?
Old buddy whose name is escaping me at the moment. Boy, that's gonna bother me. I gotta look this up now.
Yeah.
Sione Vaki.
Yeah.
Plays both ways for them.
Yep.
He's really good. But
yes, he is.
Without Cam Rising, they're kind of dead in the water.
Yeah.
Against elite teams.
Yep.
Against elite teams.
Yep. For sure. All right. What's one more game you want to highlight from last week?
Boy, you were talking about a disappointment.
Yeah.
Let's go down to Orlando.
Oh, Jesus.
Where freaking Oak State put up 3 points against UCF.
It was the space game.
Okay. All right.
What are they, 5-0 now in the space game or whatever? It's weird.
Something like that. Yeah. But, yeah.
Holy
UCF
God.
was 4-5 coming into this game, and then beat Oklahoma State. It ranked Oklahoma State 45.
Who just knocked off Oklahoma.
Yeah. It was one of those trap games, man. Like, we talk about it all the time. You come off a really, really big win.
Yep.
And then you freaking get trounced the next week, or you barely lose whatever you lose the next week because you look ahead, and it's like I expected more out of a team coached by a man, Mike Gundy.
Yeah.
That was not a game that I expected them to lose or even really be close in, honestly. I thought that they were going to go down there and run for 250 yards and kind of handle business.
They never got Ollie going, man.
No.
Holy cow.
It was not good.
Yeah. That's a tough. To get boat race, too.
Yeah.
Just absolutely boat race. And credit where credit's due, Gus Malzahn's got UCF playing good ball. They're 4-5. They gave Oklahoma all Oklahoma could handle. But I did not see that coming. I didn't see them winning, for one. I laid the points with Oklahoma State. But, man, to get just embarrassed down in Orlando, whew, holy cow.
Yep, not great for them.
Let's talk a little bit about Ohio State. Ohio State against Michigan State.
Yep.
They never were in it. Marvin Harrison Jr. looks like he should be in New York City at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. That defense is starting to click. And you mentioned it, for probably a good portion of this season. I myself, and we've talked a little bit about it, like this isn't the Ohio State defenses we've seen in the past, but they were pretty suffocating this weekend, albeit against a bad Michigan State team. But this is a statement by an Ohio State team leading into what's going to be a really fun, really hotly contested game against Michigan next week. But this is one of those games where you can kind of say, okay, we put our thumb on a rival in Michigan State, an in-conference foe, and really offensively they look good, man. They are starting to look comfortable. They've got better quarterback play than I think we would have expected the way the season started out with them. And God, geez, Marvin Harrison Jr. is just a mutant.
Oh yeah, he's silly, man. He's like Calvin Johnson was back in the day. Like it's Devontae Smith when he won the Heisman.
Yep.
Just just completely uncoverable in a man scheme
on a different level.
I don't know why. I don't know why he ever has a 1v1 matchup anywhere ever on the field. Like, there's no world in which that man should have one person covering him.
Nope.
I do. One of my favorite things about Ohio State this year is whenever Gus Johnson calls their games, he likes to call him Maserati Marv. So I like to
Gus is
imagine.
the best, dude.
Oh, he's so good.
So good.
It's good like the first 5 times, and then he says it 63 times in a game. And I'm like, all right, but
yeah.
But I love to think of Maserati Marv being the wide receiver, and then Kyle Honda Accord being the quarterback. And it's like they just have way more horsepower in the field than everybody else does, because you have engines in vehicles.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, they I've had them in my top 6 all year long, kind of in and out of the totem, and played with their placement a little bit just based off of other people's schedules. But I firmly believe they are capable of competing for a national title.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, do they play a close game against Georgia like they did last year? Probably not. CJ Stroud is not walking through that door.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they're not a really, really good team.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You want to talk about your boys there in Columbia, Missouri?
Yeah, man. It's
36-7 on the Vols. I know you love to see that.
I do love to see that. This was a matchup of 2 teams that I thought that South Carolina was going to beat this year.
Yeah.
Boy, I was wrong. Also, I think it is an interesting show of the gap between the elite level colleges, Georgia, Bama, Ohio State. The next group, whoever you want to put in there, but I'm including Missouri in that group, and then the group below, which is Tennessee, right? Georgia boat raced Missouri, and Missouri just boat raced Tennessee. And it's like the gap that is there, is just astounding, right? Because Tennessee, not a bad team. No. Like Tennessee, they have a really, really good coach in Josh Heupel. Eli Drinkwitz, and we said it had to be a month ago at least, that Eli Drinkwitz has this Missouri team headed in the right direction, and they're freaking good. Brady Cook can spin the hell out of the ball, and they play really good defense. But there's just a gap. Like, there's a gap between them and Tennessee, specifically a 29-point gap, and then a freaking gap between them and between Missouri and Georgia. And it's going to take a lot from these teams that are in the middle of the pack in the SEC if they want to compete with that upper echelon team. But I think the Drinkwitz has these boys, once again, pointing in the right direction. And, they might be next up in the East, right? If Florida can't get things figured out, and if Tennessee, if we'll see next year if this is just a down season for them or not. But I think probably Missouri is solidly the second best team in the SEC East now. Yeah.
Which is not a sentence I would have thought we would have uttered to start the season. But yeah, for sure. When you get that kind of quarterback play. Last note I want to make is Texas, man, just survive in advance, right?
Yep.
We got to keep that in mind, just survive in advance. But they have put themselves in position to lose the last 2 weeks, and they're going to want to spin that around because their margin for error is very small, especially now that Oklahoma's lost again to 2 bad teams, right? A win over Oklahoma is not going to hold the same weight that it would have 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago before they lost those 2 games. And a 2-loss Big 12 champion is not going to do it, right? Even if you beat Oklahoma. So, man, what are you seeing with Texas? What the fuck's going on with them?
The only thing that makes sense to me is the Quinn Ewers injury.
Yeah.
They may have rushed him back when he probably needed a couple more weeks. I don't know that to be the case, but it's the only thing that makes sense to me as to why they struggled. They got outscored 20-3 in the second half this game. It's an in-state thing. These guys played each other in high school, in all the 7-on-7 leagues, whatever. So it's not like the players on the field don't know each other.
Yeah.
It's not historically a big rivalry game, Texas Christian and UT, but it's got to be the Ewers injury. That's the only thing that makes sense to me because you and I talked about it so much early in the year, how talented this roster is,
right,
top to bottom. They have NFL guys on both sides of the ball, both sides of the line. The only thing that makes sense is that Quinn Ewers is just working back into football shape.
Yeah, very much could be. Heard some rumors this week that we might be in Arch Manning transfer season here soon. Do you think he's going to leave Texas?
Arch Manning, I will do whatever you want. Anything you want. Anything that you want. Please come to Columbia.
Okay.
And if Lenora Sellers is listening to this, I don't mean it to be disrespectful, but dear God, Arch Manning, please come to Columbia.
Whatever it takes. Yeah, that'd be a good get for you guys for sure.
It'll never happen. I don't expect him to transfer. I think he walks into that starting job next year whenever Ewers leaves because Malik Murphy is not the answer at quarterback.
No, I was going to say that. I think he started because I just think it was like not a pecking order thing, but I also think like Sark has a plan for Arch to be the guy next year and wasn't going to put him in a game this year because Arch isn't going to use a red shirt. Or if he does, he's going to go to the NFL as a redshirt sophomore, most likely, depending on what we see. But like the likelihood is he's 3 years at Texas and probably on to the next level, riding his name. But I do think that Malik Murphy start was probably because they've got a plan that Arch is just going to be the guy in spring ball next year, all the way through next season.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it earlier whenever we were talking about Alabama and how they might be in the transfer portal looking for a quarterback this coming off season. If Arch is looking to transfer, my guess is that he would go to Alabama.
Yeah.
Both of his uncles played in the SEC. I know Texas is coming over, but like, is Texas ready to? I mean, they beat Alabama, so I mean, I guess that means they're ready to compete.
Yeah.
But are they ready to play a full SEC schedule?
Yeah. That's always been the thing. People talk like, oh, Bama goes and loses in a bowl game or something. And everybody's like, see, the ACC is better than the SEC. No, it fucking isn't. Go play that schedule week in and week out and see if you get up for a fucking game against North Carolina. Come on.
Yep. Yeah, North Carolina is one of the best teams in the country, especially week one. Like coming into the season, they were as hot as could be. They could have beaten anybody in week one this year. Okay, they could have beaten the Jets, right? All right. So careful.
I chose the wrong team. See if you can get up for NC State.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Anybody could beat NC State, dude. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Any other notes from this past week?
We have to shout out the Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels.
Oh, yeah, what a fucking weekend!
First quarterback to go for 350 in the air.
7,000 fucking yards this weekend.
Yeah, first player ever in NCAA history to go for 350 in the air and 200 on the ground. Yeah, he's going to win the Heisman. So
yeah, I think he might. Despite LSU not being a great team because of that defense, but I think he might end up winning the Heisman. He's getting a lot of love right now too, for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's an individual award, right? RG3 won it when they lost 3 games.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson lost 3 games to win the Heisman. Like there's no reason that he can't win the Heisman. You know, you'd have to see something like Marvin Harrison Jr. would have to go for like 260 and 3 touchdowns against Michigan.
Yeah,
I think to jump him.
Yep.
Which is possible.
Yeah,
it's very, very possible.
It really is. That dude is unbelievable.
He's so good.
So unbelievable. All right, well, let's shift gears into this week, and I don't know that we're going to be talking a lot about too many SEC matchups, but we do have one. We have several SEC teams playing tune-up games. I'm talking to you, Alabama playing Chattanooga. Talking to you, Ole Miss playing UL Monroe.
Yeah. 37.5-point favorites, baby.
Yeah. However, we do have a big matchup. Tennessee's coming off that boat race loss to Missouri, and they've got Georgia coming to town, who was hitting on all cylinders last week. Any chance of an upset here in this game?
You tell me, Gary. What do you think? No chance.
No
chance. Now, I am a little shocked that the line is only 10, if I'm
Yeah.
being honest.
I thought it would be closer to like 13.5, 14.5.
Yeah, like that feels low. Vegas, I guess, just has a lot of love for Neyland Stadium. You know,
Maybe.
Rocky Top's going to be blaring. It's not
Maybe.
a night game, which
Yeah.
like I could understand like a 10-point line if it's a night game, but it's a 3:30 kick. Like I don't know, it doesn't make sense. I'll take the points. Give me the 10.
Weird trap line, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
one of those Vegas lines that you bet the side that doesn't make sense because it's Vegas.
It's not even like a look ahead though for Georgia because they play Georgia Tech next weekend.
I mean, it's an in-state rival, but Georgia Tech ain't no fucking good.
No. I don't know. I think Georgia kind of steamrolls them this week personally, but
probably. All right. What other games look good on the slate? It's not the best slate we've had all year.
So there's a game that I think personally is going to be very interesting. Wake Forest is going to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So Sam Hartman gets to play against his old team, right? It's probably not going to be a very entertaining game from like a competition standpoint of view, but I think it'd be very interesting just for the Sam Hartman aspect of it, right? Yeah. Played there 4 years, knows all the guys, knows the coaching staff, everything.
You
see what kind of show he puts on. 24.5.
Yeah. Vegas doesn't think it's going to be very competitive either. No. But 100%. The storyline, it would have been really cool if Notre Dame played in Winston-Salem this year.
That would have been ideal.
Yeah, that would have been really interesting.
Why couldn't they just do that? Like, just play back-to-back in Winston-Salem and then back-to-back in Notre Dame. Like,
yeah, flex it, right?
Yeah, flex it.
Yep. We do have an in-state rivalry, though, in the top 25, Kansas State, Kansas. We continue to see Kansas just kind of hanging around the top 25. They've been in, they've been out, they've been in, they've been out. Kansas State looks like they've kind of got the offense rolling, too. Yeah. Whatever the over is, I didn't see the line, 57.5 in this one. It feels like that number is not very safe with these two offenses. Although, I did bet last weekend with two really good offenses against two really good defenses in Lawrence, Kansas, and that game went so far under. Like, so far under. It was not even in sight, the over-under line. It was so crazy.
Yeah, that was a wild sequence of events. I don't understand what happened to Kansas. I made no sense to me. The line's 9.5 here to Kansas State. I really, really want to take Kansas and the points. But Kansas State almost just beat Texas. They're really good. They're a very good team.
Out there, man.
And if that game last week for Kansas was not a road bump, like a speed bump in that offense, they could really, really struggle against this Kansas State team.
Oh, yeah.
But I believe in their coach. I think Lance Leipold is really freaking good. So I probably will end up taking the points here. 9.5 is a lot for a home night game.
Yep.
And Kansas coming off that big basketball win too, beating Kentucky. Yep. They're the number one team in the country, right? You know, those kids are going to be riled up.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a wild environment.
Be juiced up.
Yeah. I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take the 9.5. Do I have that written down? Yeah, I do.
Hey, there you go.
I actually have 7.5 written down on my sheet. I guess this line moved since this afternoon.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Wow. That moved a lot.
ESPN's just that far off? I don't know. Wow. 2 points moved. All right. I do want to talk about maybe the biggest matchup of the weekend and maybe the weirdest number of the weekend. Up in the Pacific Northwest, the 10-0 Washington Huskies are headed to Beavertown to play Oregon State, the number 11 team in the country. Now, Oregon State's been playing really good ball, but Washington is 10-0 and coming off a pretty big win against Utah last weekend. They're 1-point dogs.
Yep.
Talk to me about this game. What do you think?
So there are a lot of really good running backs in college football, and Oregon State has two of the best of them. And they have a 260-pound running back at the quarterback position, who also is pretty good at throwing the ball, as we've seen. They scored 62 points last week, which is something that we see from time to time in like weeks 1 and 2 in college football season, where they're playing like real tune-up games to get into the schedule. You don't often see that against a conference opponent, right?
Yeah.
They beat Stanford, who future ACC, right? That offense in Corvallis is very, very good. And playing at Corvallis at night, man. Now I know time adjusted. It's like a 4:30 kick, whatever. The sun's going to be down, right? Yeah. It's going to be nighttime in Corvallis.
Yep.
That is a tough place to play. I expect a great game. It's such a tough game to pick. Where's my thing? Where's my cheat sheet? So I have 2.5 on mine. Again, these lines have moved.
I think ESPN's off.
I got mine from ESPN.
Oh, maybe
earlier today.
Moved, huh?
It's just moved apparently. So I have 2.5, and I have written down Oregon State plus 2.5.
Okay.
This may be an upset alert. This may be like take just the win straight up. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I really, really like the Oregon State squad. I like them coming into the year. I hope they win this game. That would make the Pac-12 just so much fun.
Yeah, chaos. We love chaos. Yeah, I'm gonna take Washington, but I'm also gonna say like I'm not betting this one.
Sure,
I'll take Washington, but I'm not gonna actually put ducats on this one. I'm not gonna put any money at risk because, like you said, I think this is gonna be a very exciting game. If I'm betting anything, I'm betting the over in this game. It's 62, I think, or 62.5. I'm going to bet the over in this one because I think both of these offenses really get going. And I think that, as you said, right, Oregon State is going to be able to run the ball against Washington. I expect them to really put up probably 275, 300 yards total in terms of rushing offense.
Yep.
But I also think that Washington is going to be able to put up some points on that Oregon State defense. So I will probably bet the over because it's enjoyable and it's going to make it for a fun game to watch. But it's going to be tough to bet either side of the line. I'm going to take Washington to win this one outright, but knowing full well that Oregon State is capable of knocking off Washington. And it would make it very interesting. Chaos ensuing in the Pac-12 especially.
Yeah.
We get closer to the end of the season here. All right. What any other games on the slate you want to highlight?
Yeah, Utah goes to Arizona, man.
Yeah.
Fafita, baby. Fafita madness. Yeah. Nick Fafita, the true freshman playing quarterback for Arizona, is going to have his hands full with the Utah defense that we heaped a lot of praise on all year long and continue to do so.
Mm-hmm.
That Arizona defense is plucky, but they're not great. They kind of rely on their offense to score a lot of points to keep them in the games. I think that's a really interesting matchup, 2 7-3 teams. Arizona is a 1-point favorite.
Who had Arizona at 7-3?
Nope.
In the top 20.
Nope, not me. Not me. I'll tell you that right now. I think that could be a really fun game.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very, very competitive is what I'm kind of predicting there. I think Utah goes into the desert and walks out with a victory.
I don't want the streak to end, but I'm with you. I think that Utah, defensively, I think they're going to be able to contend. In Colorado gave that offense some trouble in the first half last week. Now Arizona came back and won that game, obviously. But
yeah,
Colorado's defense gave them a little bit of trouble in the first half, and Utah's defense is light years ahead of Colorado's defense. So we might see a little bit of a struggle, but in Fafita, I trust, man. Maybe he'll figure it out. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. I'd love to see him prove me wrong. I don't want the streak to end. It's been fun, dude. Every week just saying, like, is Arizona good? Is Arizona good?
Are they good? I don't know. I know their basketball team is good.
Yeah, we know when we get there.
Sons of bitches.
Yeah, that was a fun game, huh?
It was not a fun game. It was you take that back right now. It was not a fun game.
Oh man,
I couldn't afford to eat dinner the next night because of Duke. So,
fucking Duke.
Always bet responsibly, children.
Don't bet your lunch money.
Nope.
Oh.
Do you want to talk about Clemson and North Carolina?
Yeah. Yeah.
Clemson, 6-4, bowl eligible.
Yeah.
Just playing for pride at this point.
North Carolina hanging on against Duke last week.
Does Clemson have what it takes to win at home against Drake May?
I think so. I question North Carolina at this point. They feel like a bad football team. And I know they're still in the top 20, but they've laid a couple of eggs over the last 3 weeks, and they held on against a Duke team that is down quite a few dudes.
Yeah.
They're down an NFL quarterback and a couple other starters on the offense. I don't trust North Carolina in this one, man. I think Clemson, what are they?
7.5
point favorite. That might be too many. Maybe I'll take the points with North Carolina, but Clemson to win.
That's fair. I like that. I mean, I don't like that. I wish both teams could lose. I really
Right.
both these
Like
teams.
when the Cowboys
heavily.
and the Giants, like can't just both these teams lose.
Absolutely. And then Clemson, anytime anybody plays Notre Dame, I want Notre Dame to lose.
Okay.
Unless they're playing Clemson, then it's like I want them both to lose.
Yeah, I get
Unfortunately, that's not the case. That can't happen.
Yeah.
Is this going to be the week that Tulane finally covers the spread? They're 9-point favorites at Florida Atlantic. Could this be the week?
I feel like that's a Vegas correction number finally, because they've been heavy favorites too and not covered. Like they've won by one score, 3 weeks in a row now?
I think so, yeah.
As 20 or more point favorites. I think 1 week they were 19.5, and that was like the low point for the last 3 weeks. And they've been kind of hanging on late in these games. I think they're that much better than Florida Atlantic. I will probably lay the points again. I have lost on 2 of those games that they haven't covered. I will probably lay the points again this week and just hope that our Green Wave can get it done. They're much better than Florida Atlantic, so they should cover. They should cover. Hopefully they bully a bad team this week for the first time in about a month.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Be real good.
Yeah. You taking Chattanooga this weekend over Alabama?
Oh, I actually
they don't even have a line. You can't bet it. You can't bet it.
No, I have 45.5.
Is it 45.5? ESPN doesn't have a line. Yeah.
I looked this one up on the sports.
You looked it up? Okay.
Yeah, so
the books will give you 45.5, huh?
44.5.
44.5, okay.
I do have Chattanooga plus 44.5 written down.
Okay.
That's fair. That's too many points.
That's a lot of fucking points.
That's too many points.
Yeah. That's so many points.
But then I turn around and I said I'm taking Ole Miss at minus 37.5.
42 is usually like you feel that threshold, right? 42, and then teams tend to maybe shut it down a little bit, that sort of thing. Yeah. Plus, they score 42 in the first half.
Yeah, that is true. That's very true. And like Lane Kiffin is such a spiteful dude that I could see him running it up.
Just run it up, yeah. Especially after a bad loss last weekend.
Yeah.
Getting boat raced, he'll want to get a little bit of his pride back.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if they score 55 points.
Yeah, just never take the starters out.
No. Or do and still score 55. Who knows?
Maybe.
UL Monroe is not good.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, I'm gonna throw what I thought was gonna be an upset alert, but it looks like they're 1-point favorites. Miami over Louisville. I still don't trust Louisville. I know that I'm probably gonna fucking pay for it again this weekend because I have bet against them twice, and twice they've beaten me. But I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to this well. I got Miami over Louisville this weekend. It's no longer an upset alert. I think it was like plus 1.5 earlier, but earlier in the week. So
yeah.
But give me Miami. I just don't trust Louisville. I still don't, even though they're number 10 in the fucking country.
Yeah, I'm taking Louisville. So
all right,
they're giving me a point. So I'm good with that. I just don't trust Miami.
Yeah. All right. Well, I did want to kind of get your thoughts on the Heisman, but we talked about that, right? You're pretty confident Jaden Daniels is going to win the Heisman?
Yeah, he's the most dynamic player in college football this year, right?
Silly.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can kind of split hairs between maybe him or Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr., but I think any semblance of those guys makes the most sense to me. But I would assume that he wins it. He's just been that good.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that at this point, 2 weeks ago, I probably wouldn't have said it, but he has continued on this crazy trajectory, and this past weekend was bonkers. And there's always a Heisman moment, right? There's always a moment for RG3. It was the game against Oklahoma where he threw fucking 82 touchdowns, and they were all like over 50 yards. And
Yep.
we saw the rubber band arm with the way he throws, and that was kind of his moment. You mentioned him earlier, and then it's always something, right? That a Heisman candidate, Reggie Bush, with hurdling guys into the end zone, that sort of shit. So that for me last week was kind of his Heisman stamp, and barring a weird sequence of events over the last couple of weeks, I do agree with you. I think Jaden Daniels wins the Heisman, which I wouldn't have expected to say, especially like a month ago. I thought it was pretty much like Michael Penix in the field, but
yeah,
he's tapered off a bit, and everybody else is playing really good football right now. Those that are in the mix.
Yep.
You real quick, any changes to your totem this week? I didn't have any myself. I wouldn't have had any if we had put it together.
Yeah, let's see. We got
notable in the top 6 or so.
We got Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Florida State 3, Ohio State 4, and then Oregon and Texas are my next 2 out. Yeah. You will not see a Washington in there for those keeping tally.
Yep. Yeah, they've been living kind of dangerously. I'm curious to see if they can maybe right the ship this weekend. That statement against Oregon State would go a long way to saying like, okay, we're here, we're back.
Yeah,
and, you can count on us again.
Yeah, for sure. That would be huge. They would probably bump Texas at that point if they went into Corvallis and won.
Agreed. All right, bud. Well, hey, I appreciate you being flexible this week.
For sure.
My technical difficulties and being on travel and all that fun stuff interfered on Tuesday, but otherwise, fun episode. Quick hit here. Getting through some games, getting through some Heisman talk. First time this season we really got serious about Heisman talk, so that was fun.
Yeah.
But we got championship games right around the corner.
That's so close.
Oh man, I can smell it. And then we got the playoff soon after. Well, I shouldn't say soon because it's like a month, but.
What's a real bummer for me is that I will be driving for 6.5 hours on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So I have to plan out my drive as to how
final Saturday weekends, huh?
Yeah, when do I want to do this so that I don't miss?
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the schedule right now. What day is that? So that's Friday. Give me the Saturday. Oh, the times are not out yet for these games. Okay. Oh no, Ohio State Michigan is noon.
That's a nooner?
That's a nooner.
Okay.
Unfortunate for me.
Is that ever a night game? I don't think it is.
I don't think because it's the TV slot. Fox always has the nooners. But South Carolina plays Clemson that day, and that's a 7:30 kick. So
yeah. Rivalry
weekend. That. Yeah.
It's good fun. Georgia Tech should be a spicy one.
Honestly, that freaking Michigan Ohio State's the only good game of the day.
Yeah, because I'm looking like Florida State, Florida. I don't expect Florida to stick with them. Clemson, South Carolina could be.
Yeah, you get Louisville, Kentucky.
The real South Carolina shows up.
Yeah.
We
get Kentucky this weekend at home under the light. Our last 2 games, so we have 4 wins right now. We're trying to get bowl eligible. Last 2 games are at home under the lights. So it's like pulling out all the stops, baby, to try to get to 6 wins and go to a bowl.
There you go. I like it.
We just got to beat Kentucky this weekend.
Yeah. We got Tuesday Maction again this week.
Yep. Love Maction.
It was fun. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, a Thursday night game.
Yeah. Also, quick shout out to Xavier Legette. By the end of the year, he's on pace to have the second most receiving yards in a season of any South Carolina receiver, second only to Alshon Jeffrey.
Ooh.
Yep.
Get it, young blood.
Yep. Alshon Jeffrey, Super Bowl champion.
Is he? He is he leaving after this year?
Yeah. He'll be. I think he's a senior.
Is he a senior? I thought he
I
was a junior.
believe so.
Okay. I might have had his class wrong. Okay.
Yeah, he's a senior.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
He will be in the NFL next year.
Yes, he will. I've seen some mocks where he goes in the second round too. That's a fucking steal, bud.
Oh yeah,
That's
the kid's a
fucking
stud.
steal. Yeah.
He's so good.
Yeah, those wheels and that size, and you're gonna get him in the second round. That's a fucking steal, bud.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you. Good episode. Bengals just took the lead for those of you watching Thursday Night Football. And we'll be back at our regularly scheduled time next week, Tuesday night, 7:20. We'll see you then. For Bentley and the rest of us here at the Backyard, in the Backyard family, we are out.